speaking to them.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Really nice to have you on. Getting ready to light the fuse here. Senator Mike Rounds will join us later in the program. He'll join us about 8:35 this morning. Plenty of other things to talk about.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense, no prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Bell.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Thursday, April 17th today. So you have Senator Chris Van Hollen, who's a Democrat from Maryland, who left the United States, went to El Salvador. He wanted to get Abrego Garcia back to the country. He didn't get it. He didn't even get to see him. He didn't get a phone call, nothing. I mean, Democrats going and it was a, taxpayers funding that trip, and for what? Nada. The other than him, on media and talking about how, trying to get Garcia back, and it's never going to happen. I've been telling you this for days. It's never going to happen. You've got legal experts out there, Jonathan Turley and others who are saying it's never going to happen. Trump administration saying it's never going to happen. And you have the tantrum throwing Democrats then. Is this a path to victory as you watch that? I mean, these are questions that go through my mind. Is that a path to victory? Because it looks like kind of crazy to me, And then you have Carolyn Leavitt at the White House, who is the real master. She kind of took Democrats to school yesterday at the White House press briefing. And she said, I'm just going to share her comments. She said, Maryland Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen rushed to Dulles Airport this morning to fly to El Salvador, potentially using taxpayer dollars, to demand the release of a deported illegal alien MS-13 terrorist. The Democrats and the media in this room have continually and wrongly labeled Kilmar Abrego Garcia as a Maryland father. There is no Maryland father. Let me reiterate. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an illegal alien, MS-13 gang member, and foreign terrorist who was deported back to his home country. And when Kilmar Abrego Garcia was originally arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money covering the ears, mouth, and eyes of presidents on various currency denominations. This is known as an MS-13 gang symbol of hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. Abrego Garcia was also arrested with two other well-known members of the vicious MS-13 gang. Two separate judges found that Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13. That finding has never been disputed. And just this morning, it was revealed through Maryland court documents that Abrego Garcia's wife petitioned for an order of protection against him for two instances of domestic violence in May of 2021. And she said, here is the order right here. And she went on to say, once in May of 2021, assault in any degree. On May 4th of 2021, he punched and scratched his wife, ripped off her shirt, grabbed and bruised her. This is really powerful stuff. And I think the White House just really, they're just spilling it all out, laying it all out there. And here's Senator Van Hollen, and over in El Salvador, they won't even let him in. won't let him into the jail. It's, you know, he didn't get a chance to visit Garcia. It's just absolutely was a train to nowhere. And it's pretty incredible. Meanwhile, Patty Marin, the mother of Rachel Marin. Remember now, Rachel Marin was killed by an illegal alien. And so she was a special guest at yesterday's White House press briefing. And she talked about her daughter's death and pleaded with the media to tell the truth. Please tell the truth, she said. She said on her way out of the door. She said, tell the truth. Tell how violent it really is. This is about protecting our children. It's more than just politics or votes or just anything. It's about national security, protecting Americans, protecting our kids, she said. She totally gets it. I mean, this is what this is about. Now, remember, her daughter Rachel was jogging when an illegal alien came up on her, beat her, raped her, strangled her to death. And she talked about the details of the murder. And it's even kind of toning it down. It's just it's pretty grisly. And she said, to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even barely acknowledge my daughter and the brutal death she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother, and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that is not even an American citizen, she said. Why does that person have more right than I do for my daughter or for my grandchildren? I don't understand this. Yeah, it makes no sense. She's absolutely right. She doesn't understand it because it's nonsensical. And this is the Democrat Party today. And this is why it's just so jaw-dropping. I thought this was very, very powerful. And Patty Marin saying, this is probably going to be one of the highlights of my life, being able to be part of a prayer meeting at the White House. She said, there is no greater God than the one that we serve. And because there is no greater God, he has a purpose and a plan for all of us being here at this moment in time. And even the death that happened to Rachel is part of his purpose. Wow. Could you be able to, the strength of that woman, I think, is just absolutely incredible. So there are keep her in your prayers, her family and our country in your prayers. We were never more in need of it than we are right now. So also there are a number of reports this morning following up on Kilmar Abrego Garcia, confirmed member of the MS-13 street gang. He was arrested back in 2019, and an immigration judge in 2019 denied his request for release on bond, citing danger to the community and flight risk. There's a lot of evidence here. He was arrested with rolls of cash and drugs previously. And as I was talking about the cash that he had on him, on the bills, the eyes, the ears, and the mouth were taped over an MS-13 gang symbol, and it's just, I mean, it's pretty incredible. So this is a prosecutor, federal prosecutor, who was on ABC, and she was saying she's glad that he's off the streets. He's a member of MS-13. I don't think you'd want to be his neighbor. He's been involved in human trafficking. He should not be in this country. So whether he is in El Salvador, in a jail in El Salvador, or a U.S. detention facility, I am so very glad, as are millions of Americans, that he is off U.S. streets. Kristi Noem issued a statement saying the liberal left and fake news are carrying water for an MS-13 gang member who has trafficking in his background. See, the more you learn about this, the more troubling the whole situation becomes. Fox News has a story this morning, police records showing him as the word is violent, repeat wife beater. So again, the more we learn, here are the Democrats out there going to El Salvador to try to see him, and which of course they did not. They weren't able to see him, even talk to him, even allowed inside of the jail. So also, we've got Judge Boasberg back in the news this morning. And Boasberg saying he found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in contempt of court for violating his order last month, stopping deportation of Venezuelan illegals. And so the Boasberg said the administration demonstrated willful disregard for his order. And there are some great comments in reaction to this by Alan Dershowitz. He was on Newsmax yesterday, and Dershowitz is a professor at Harvard Law School. And Dershowitz said, the person who should be held in contempt is Judge Boasberg for issuing such a vague order, he said. But he, talking about this and the initial order, he said he issues an order first orally, in which he talks about bringing the planes back. You can't just bring planes back, and we all know this. That's not easy. That might not be safe. Then he issues a written order, which is the binding order. And Dershowitz said, look, I've been practicing law for 60 years. And what I was always taught is you follow the judge's written order. And as I understand it, there was no written order requiring bringing back these folks. And he said of Boasberg, he's created his own problems. He's flexing his muscle. He will be reversed on appeal. The United States Supreme Court is not going to allow criminal contempt against an administration for violating as vague an order as was allegedly violated in this case. That'll be interesting. So Judge Boasberg holding the, saying that he has found probable cause to hold the administration then in contempt. And the president responding to this on Truth Social, he said, can you believe it? A judge ruled against us on 530,000 illegal migrants that Joe Biden flew over the border in his program to transport illegals into the country by airplane, saying that they can't be looked at as a group, but that each case has to be tried individually. Based on the court system, that would take approximately 100 years. What is going on with our courts? They are totally out of control. They seem to hate Trump so much that anything goes. We are trying to bring our country back from the destruction caused by the Democrats and crooked Joe Biden. I won on a policy of common sense. And what common sense do we have when we have to have 530,000 trials? This radicalized judge is saying that Sleepy Joe can fly more than 500,000 illegals into America in one day, but we have to hold many years of long and tedious trials to fly each and every one of them back home. Where is the justice here? Great question the president is asking. Also, yesterday, one of the big stories yesterday was Attorney General Pam Bondi. She held the news conference, the Justice Department launching a lawsuit now against the state of Maine to challenge that state's policy on transgender athletes participating in women and girls sports. Again, I believe this is one of those issues where the American people, doesn't matter what political party you belong to, the American people left and right believe that transgender men should not be participating in women's sports. That women and girls sports should be reserved for women and girls. And Maine has thought otherwise. And so Pam Bondi was there alongside of Riley Gaines and other parents from Maine and students who have protested that state's regulation surrounding biological males competing in female sports. And so Bondi announced this and said, the Department of Justice will not sit by when women are discriminated against in sports. This is about sports. This is also about these young women's personal safety, she said. I met many of these women throughout the past weeks and months, and what they have been through is horrific, she said. So you got the governor of Maine who saying this is administrative overreach from the Trump administration. She said, I have fought tirelessly for the rights of women and girls, for the health and well-being of children and families, and defending a Constitution of Maine and the Constitution of the United States. My administration and Maine's Attorney General will vigorously defend our state against the action announced today from the Department of Justice. So I don't know if you heard Governor Mills, I believe it was within the past week. And you may have heard the audio of her standing up and challenging the president on this issue, and she and the president, standing firm. And she said, "Well, we're filing suit." And the president said, "Well, I'll see you in court then. We'll see you in court." And it's just absolutely incredible. Trump, here's some of the exchange between the two of them. Trump, this was during a White House meeting back in February when all of the country's governors were there. And he was discussing the executive order about transgender athletes then in women's sports. And she said that she would abide by both federal and state laws. And the president said, well, we are the federal law. You better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't, the president said. And then she said, see you in court. Good, the president said. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be an easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be elected, or I don't think you'll be in elected politics, the president said. So this is right at the White House back in February. So DOJ following through on that. And then this has been one of the stories of the week, and I've got to tell you, it's, I have said, I have thought it cool. You have the Blue Origin flight, the all-female crew, the all-female flight on this Blue Origin, right? And which I thought was pretty cool. Just like I thought it was cool, William Shatner went up into space. See, but now, the rest of that story is you got people who are paying plenty of money in order to go up on these flights. So now Gayle King, who was one of the hosts on CBS, saying that she's disappointed by the backlash. And she's up there talking like she was the first woman ever in space, like she's an astronaut. She's not an astronaut. Do we understand the difference between it? An astronaut would be somebody who's actually what she is. I mean, that would be like me flying on a plane, right? And saying I'm a pilot. I'm not a pilot. I flew on a plane. And it's kind of the same thing here. I've got more details that we have got to talk about. That has been in the news all this week. And the Gayle King just needs to shut up, because she would be doing herself a favor if she just stopped talking. So we'll get into that in more detail. That's a look at the big stories this morning. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. 627, mostly cloudy and 57. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Oh man, these women who went up on that flight. This is not a shot at women at all. I thought it was cool. But now talking like they're astronauts, and then you got Katy Perry kissing the ground after 10 minutes in space. What? I mean, you just watch people and how absurd they are. It's absolutely.
There is no comparison.
For years,
So we'll talk about that this morning.
been a strong supporter of America's small businesses, recognizing that they need a level playing field to compete against larger corporations. Thank you, Senator Thune, for leading the fight to protect the 20% small business tax deduction, empowering South Dakota's small businesses to hire, expand, and invest in our communities. Visit smallbusinessdeduction.com to learn how you can support the effort to stop the massive tax hike on small businesses. Paid for by the National Federation of Independent Business.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular and get your second month free for a limited time. You'll get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month. Here's Veronica and Jackie, real customers.
I didn't know that I could get something for a lot less money that was actually better than who I was with before.
Anytime anybody complains about their cell phone bill, we say, you've got to check out Consumer Cellular. And now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free.
Steve, I like your thinking. Would have been really fun. Would have been really funny if El Salvador had deported the Maryland senator. I would have found that humorous, I think. 6:30, mostly cloudy and 57. Fox News Radio coming up fast. Then we'll check in with Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. Coming up, this is wild news. South Dakota could become the new home of TikTok. So Joe will have details on that story coming up. Fox News is next. And then I'll check stories trending this morning.
President Trump holding an Easter prayer service at the White House honoring Patty Morin, whose daughter Rachel was murdered by an illegal Salvadoran migrant. After she told the press corps the brutal details, while her Maryland Senator, Chris Van Hollen, traveled to El Salvador to get another deported migrant out of his mega prison, but was denied by Salvador's vice president. Fox has learned the Trump administration is asking the IRS to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem terminated 2 DHS research grants worth nearly $3 million for defying Trump administration guidelines to root out anti-Semitism. And Maine's governor still defying the Trump executive order to ban trans athletes in women's sports, even with the Justice Department suing the state for failing to protect women under Title IX. America is listening to Fox News.
Weather brought to you by Infinity Sedation Dentistry, Sioux Falls. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Hello, News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. South Dakota could become the new home of TikTok. A $50 billion bid from Wyoming-based Rasner Media to buy the social media platform is on the table. And if the deal goes through, TikTok's new U.S. headquarters could be located somewhere here in South Dakota. Governor Roden recently met with Rasner and says he supports the bid. He also says he's still surprised at the prospect.
Was kind of blown away by how receptive they were at the concept of coming to South Dakota. They reached out to us and they had nothing but good to say about South Dakota.
Ironically, South Dakota was one of the first states to ban the use of TikTok on state government devices due to security concerns related to its Chinese ownership. The vacant Citibank campus in North Sioux Falls is being considered as a possible site for South Dakota's new men's prison. The Department of Corrections recently issued a request for potential locations after lawmakers questioned the $800 million price tag for the current proposal in Lincoln County. The 70-acre property could support new construction for up to 1,500 beds, along with the existing office buildings being repurposed for admin and education. The state is still accepting proposals now through April 24th. 16 people were arrested in South Dakota yesterday as part of a major drug bust called Operation Snowy Ridge. The two-day effort involved federal, state, local, and tribal authorities targeting suspects in Rapid City and the Pine Ridge Reservation. All 16 suspects faced federal drug conspiracy charges, with more charges possibly on the way. And more than a dozen emergency vehicles responded to a hazmat call in downtown Sioux Falls yesterday. Around 9 a.m., Sioux Falls fire rescue crews spent more than an hour investigating a situation at an apartment complex across from the Levitt stage. Investigators later determined it was just a cooking mishap. No injuries were reported. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Yeah, I'm on board with Robert. Me too. Wanting Democrats to stay on this path. Yeah, because it's insanity. I mean,
that will linger into tomorrow morning. Tonight's low down to 38. Tomorrow's high at 54 with sunshine in the afternoon. North winds tomorrow at 15 to 30. From the Storm Center, I'm Scott Lund.
Free home delivery 24 hours a day. We deliver the news to you at home, at work, in your car, wherever you go. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The hottest social media conspiracy theory.
First of all, we got to see TikTok come to, we're talking about TikTok. First of all, we've got to see TikTok come to the United States. I'm not convinced that's going to happen, that there's going to be an American buyership. So you got to have that happen first. And then South Dakota, I mean, there's going to be a lot of competition for that if it winds up coming to the United States. There's just a lot of what ifs in that. So I'm not doing the happy dance yet, you know. And I wonder what it would mean in terms of what kind of infrastructure would have to be built. I mean, you go and you look at some of these Google data centers that are being built, especially in Minnesota. You see some of those. They're just absolutely huge.
Whether heading out in the morning or locking up at night.
So there are just a lot of what ifs there.
Protect your family and home. It gives you greater peace of mind. Simply Safe is setting the new standard in home security, delivering peace of mind every day to millions of Americans. And here's the deal you can't afford
Excuse
to
me.
miss. For a limited time, you can get 50% off a new Simply Safe system with professional monitoring. Monitoring plans start at around $1 a day, with no contracts, no hidden fees, and a 60-day money-back guarantee to prove Simply Safe is right for you. Hurry, this offer won't last long. Take control of your safety today. Visit simplysafekim.com and save 50% on a new system. That's simplysafekim.com. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Check it out today. That's simplysafekim.com.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, with 2 locations to make sure you have the proper traction this winter.
For years, Senator John Thune has been a strong supporter of America's small businesses, recognizing that they need a level playing field to compete against larger corporations. Thank you, Senator Thune, for leading the fight to protect the 20% small business tax deduction, empowering South Dakota's small businesses to hire, expand, and invest in our communities. Visit smallbusinessdeduction.com to learn how you can support the effort to stop the massive tax hike on small businesses. Paid for by the National Federation of Independent Business.
The best way to describe Farmers Union, this family.
South Dakota Farmers Union is run by producers like myself. People can really get involved in and go somewhere with it and get things accomplished.
It put me in places that I didn't have access to before, and it put me in front of people that I've never would have had a chance to be in front of.
Join us in having your voice be heard.
Join us in protecting family farms and ranches. Join the South Dakota Farmers Union.
Now, don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, plus. Oh, in other words, you pay more. At the end of the day, you paid for that, quote, free phone 3 times over. There is a better way. Pure Talk, my cell phone provider, a veteran-owned company, my sponsor, my wireless company, has a much better offer. A free phone with a qualifying plan for just $35 a month, and you get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26. Just make the switch to Pure Talk for $35 a month. You get unlimited talk, unlimited text, 15 gigs of data with mobile hotspot and roaming, all on America's most dependable 5G network. Just dial pound 250, say the keyword Pure Talk, and Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team will help you make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Again, just dial pound 250, say the keyword Pure Talk.
Oh, Robert, you're too kind.
Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you make the switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans.
We got a speaking of producer, we put a posting on Indeed the other day, and boom, got in a number of folks who immediately applied. And I went through those just really briefly yesterday, sent everybody a message letting them know, we've received it. Thank you for your interest, and we'll be moving forward. So, and as I glance now, again, I just glanced through them. I'm excited. So hopefully we'll be able to find another producer soon. I listened to Coast AM, as I'm coming into work. The end of the program, they're thanking all of these people, and I'm like,
30-40 times a day.
I have nobody to thank. It's this. The entire show is me. The 4th hour is me. I select the news. It makes me laugh.
Stimulating talk and news when it happens.
.39, mostly cloudy and 57. Thanks for letting me join you this morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. It's mostly cloudy, 57 right now at Kello. This hour of our show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Well, Maryland's Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen went to El Salvador yesterday and said the government had denied his request to visit with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And this is a piece from The Guardian. And the way they write this is just incredible. This is Van Hollen's constituent who was wrongly deported to the Central American country last month. Wrongly deported. Oh, man. So Van Hollen was there, and he was not let into the prison. He was not allowed to see Garcia. So it's much ado about nothing, really. I mean, what did he accomplish other than, I mean, that's an expensive trip just to get in front of the media, right? I mean, it seems like that's what it was all about. Because he didn't accomplish anything. Not at all. And this is after El Salvador's President Bukele had met with President Trump the other day. I watched a little bit of the news conference that President Trump and President Bukele had at the White House this week. And he's sharp. He's pretty sharp. And so Van Hollen said he had met with El Salvador's vice president. And he said, I asked the vice president if I could meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia. And he said, well, you need to make earlier provisions to go visit CCOT, which is the prison where he's at. I said, I'm not interested at this moment in taking a tour of CCOT. I just want to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia. He said he was not able to make that happen. So the White House has got a piece. This is at whitehouse.gov. And they're talking about the visit of Senator Chris Van Hollen. And they write, where was the Maryland senator's concern when one of his own constituents, Rachel Moran, an innocent mother of 5, was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant? Van Hollen didn't even bother to contact her family. Where was his concern when an accused killer was allowed to roam free due to the sanctuary policies of his state's second most populous county? Van Hollen didn't say a word about the radical policies that put his constituents at risk. Judge Boasberg said yesterday he found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt for willfully disobeying his order to immediately stop deportations. And he said this was his finding. Probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt. The court does not reach such conclusion lightly or hastily. I know. So the Trump administration saying they plan to appeal. Also, Trump DOJ is suing Maine in the standoff over transgender athletes in women's sports. So they now have filed suit, and they're challenging the state's policy regarding transgender athletes competing in girls and women's sports. If states won't stand by the rights of women and girls, I'm glad to see that the federal government will do so. Also, the White House is saying that China is now facing a 245% tariff as a result of their retaliatory actions. So the war on trade continues, and this was, I think, on Tuesday, the president announcing these tariffs up to 245% on Chinese imports. Also, a third high-ranking Pentagon official was suspended yesterday. This is an investigation that's going on into national security leaks in the Department of Defense. So there have been a number of people now who have been suspended. Dan Caldwell, who was the top advisor to Pete Hegseth, was put on leave on Tuesday. Darren Selnick, who was the Defense Department's deputy chief of staff, was suspended Tuesday. And now Colin Carroll, the third person suspended for his role in the leaks. Also, we're learning more about the death of Gene Hackman and his wife. And forgive me because it's a little, but dead rodents, rat feces, were discovered at his complex 1 week after he and his wife were found dead inside the property. So this is coming from the New Mexico Department of Public Health. Dead rodents, live rodents, rodent nests, feces found in multiple areas in and around the property. And this is after it was found then that Gene Hackman's wife had died from a rare rat-borne disease. And it's just, I don't want to get any deeper into that story than that because it gets more and more disturbing. Also, the FDA urging patients and doctors to check their Ozempic prescriptions and make sure they're legitimate, because FDA has seized several hundred units of fake versions. If you're not familiar with Ozempic, it's a diabetes drug. And the maker of Ozempic told the FDA that counterfeit 1 milligram injections were being distributed outside of their authorized supply chain in the US. And so these versions are fake. And there are stories out there telling you what to look for. Also, I mentioned this story yesterday on the 4th hour. Director Chris Columbus says that Donald Trump's cameo in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, it should be removed. He wishes it weren't there. He told the San Francisco Chronicle. He said, it's become an albatross for me. I just wish it was gone. I can't cut it. If I cut it, I'd probably be sent out of the country. I'd be considered sort of not fit to live in the United States. So I'll have to go back to Italy or something. So he never wanted the cameo, wishes he could cut it out. And I'm like, that to me is just so, wow. I mean, is he trying to spike views of Home Alone 2? I'm more likely to go watch it now just to see the Trump cameo. I've seen it before, but it's been a while. Also, Representative Elise Stefanik, according to reports, is considering a run for governor of New York, according to multiple media outlets. Both NBC News and Politico say she's considering a run for governor after withdrawing her nomination to being UN ambassador. Another political story, David Hogg, if you remember him, he is now the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. He says he wants to fund primary challenges against Democratic lawmakers. Do you hear that? Democratic lawmakers who he feels are asleep at the wheel and not fighting President Trump hard enough. What we're looking for are people who are effective leaders to fight back against Donald Trump. And I think good examples of what that looks like are what our senator from Maryland is doing by going to El Salvador to say we need to do something. Lost, forever lost. Also, do you remember Gary Shapley? He's a former special agent in the Internal Revenue Service, Criminal Investigation Division. He investigated Hunter Biden's taxes, testified before Congress about, interference with that probe. Shapley, according to reports, will be named acting commissioner of the IRS. So we'll see where that goes. Also, California Governor Gavin Newsom and the California Attorney General are suing the Trump administration in federal court. And they're saying the president's tariffs on U.S. trading partners, they're saying it was illegal for Trump to use emergency powers in order to do that. So the lawsuit was filed in U.S. District Court, the Northern District of California. They're arguing that Trump doesn't have the presidential authority to unilaterally impose tariffs. And they're saying it violates the separation of powers doctrine. I just find it laughable every time we've got the left trying to use the Constitution to and all they really want to do is sideline the administration. Also, we're learning more about this guy who attacked Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro, Josh Shapiro. And now we're learning that he had a focus on Palestine and the governor's views on Israel. And so they're saying we do believe there was a religious bias involved, and we're going to pursue that in our prosecution. And they said we obtained the search warrant. The affidavit speaks for itself. But there was noted in there an indication of his focus on Palestine and the governor's views on Israel. So, yeah, we do believe there's a religious bias there. And so they were asked, will you be charging the suspect with a hate crime as well? And they said in Pennsylvania, we have an ethnic intimidation statute that raises the grade of an offense, but we've already charged five first-degree felonies, and it doesn't get any higher than that. Also trending this morning, a 17-year-old boy has been charged with aggravated assault mass shooting after he opened fire at his Dallas high school this week, shooting classmates indiscriminately. And surveillance cameras show a student letting the suspect into the high school through an unsecured door. This happened on Tuesday. He walked the hallway until he spotted multiple male students and then just started shooting indiscriminately. Also trending this morning, we're past it now, and this is often the case with trending news stories, but April 15th, pretty significant date in U.S. sports history. Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. April 15th, 1947. So Tuesday was the 78th anniversary of Robinson playing his first game for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and it's been commemorated throughout the week in a number of different ways, as well it should be. Also, the Boston Celtics will attempt to become the first NBA team to repeat as champions since the Golden State Warriors did it with titles in 2017 and 2018. But first, the Celtics are going to have to get through the Orlando Magic in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Also, Spotify experienced a widespread outage yesterday. Tens of thousands of users of Spotify were reporting problems. The platform then said it was back up and running several hours later. And they posted on social media, they said, all clear, thanks for your patience. So there had been a number of Spotify users saying they were having difficulty loading both the app and the desktop site. Wound up being corrected. This story is trending. It's the Supreme Court in the UK. I want to make very clearly that you understand this, that this is not the United States. This is the UK Supreme Court ruling yesterday that the definition of a woman is based on biological sex. And so therefore, transgender people who have been trying to claim, in other words, you have men trying to claim that they're transgender and they are women, the UK Supreme Court said no. And that's a look at the stories that are trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Thanks for starting your day with us. It's great to have you along. Currently, it's mostly cloudy and 57. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Well, thank you, my friends. Hope to see you today for the fourth hour coming up at 9:30. Otherwise, so long until tomorrow. Take care.